What's up, guys? All right, so it appears that my last video was able to upload, so everybody say a prayer for me and hope that this one actually works too, because there's nothing worse than talking to the void for 45 minutes only to have it not work on YouTube. All right, so what are we talking about today? So I was at church at Adoration earlier this evening. I was letting my head wander, and one of the things that came across my mind was complexity. And as someone who plays lots of different games, and I've been playing games for quite a while, I've experienced lots of different stuff, from really rules light games to super complex games, right? And as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Axe, right? And one of the common complaints or refrains that I hear when I try to introduce Axe to friends of mine is that, yeah, it sounds really cool, but I don't want to read all this. Or, yeah, it sounds really cool, but this is too complex, or this is too different. And to be honest, that really bugs me. And I don't think it's anything that is unique to RPGs, frankly. I think it's obviously something that's always been around, an argument between, complex things versus easy things. But I think it's gotten a lot worse in modern times, right? I think it's pretty commonly accepted at this point that people's attention spans have suffered due to social media and easy, crappy media in general, right? I mean, if we're talking about television, the rise of reality TV and throwaway, baking shows or do-it-yourself shows that pretty much wiped out really well-written, deep thought-out plots for long-term shows, right? We can apply this to video games. We can apply this across the spectrum. And I think that we do ourselves an injustice by not spending more time thinking about the value that goes into more complex or comprehensive products, and just the value to humanity, or you as a person, to have the perseverance and persistence to work at things that have a different payoff long term. Now, you're going to see out here, obviously, I have Shadowdark and Axe set up. I want to make clear that this is not a video for me to shit on Shadowdark specifically or any other games. I set this up here very specifically because I have lots of rules light or lighter games that I genuinely dislike. I set Shadowdark out here very specifically because it is a game that I really enjoy. I've played many times and I have a blast when I play it. But that being said, I think it's illustrative of my point that I want to make. So let me get into it a little bit deeper here, because you might be thinking that, like what I was just saying about trash TV and, small attention spans, that, only, super complex, comprehensive things are of value. And that's not the point I want to make tonight. So let me try and get this across. So why I set these both up here is because I think in my mind, when I was sitting in the pew thinking, was like I said, I have a common complaint that, hey, I don't want to give this a try because it's too intimidating. I mean, look at it. It's too intimidating. I don't want to read it. And as I was sitting in church, here's my Bible, right? And here's my 1962 missal. So, oh my God, look at the small font. There's no pictures. What are we doing here? if this were an RPG book today, people would be up at arms. Oh, you expect me to read all of that? That's crazy. The author couldn't cut it down and have better formatting, right? It's and that's what got me thinking, was that how many people, if you go into Google right now and you start typing the Bible is too, and then let it fill in the blank, I'm sure one of the first results is probably going to be the Bible is too long, the Bible is too complex, right? And yet we would never throw this out the window because Genesis is a slog to get through the first time you read it, and because it's thousands of pages of double column tiny font, right? We wouldn't do that because we understand that while yes, this is long, and yes, it can be complex, that there is supreme value that can come out of that, and that the comprehensiveness is important, that the first part is just as important as the last part, and getting through all of it, that little sections in the back will inform your reading of the front, right? And it's the same thing with these more comprehensive, complex games. And I want people, if this isn't your game, then that's fine. What I'm trying to make a point here is that just because it's too large, it doesn't mean that it might be something that that by putting a little bit of pressure on yourself, just like lifting weights, it doesn't come all at once. It requires work, but that work leads to extreme payoff, right? And the other thing I'm going to say here, again, I don't have a script, so sorry, my thoughts are always coming out jumbled. We'll see how this goes by the end. But one of my thoughts was that I see from the people who even do want to play Axe, I am on the Discord quite a bit, not as much as I would like to be. But there seem to be quite a few people who they're just getting into Axe, and they're trying to get everything. They want everything to be perfect. And in that pursuit of perfection, I think sometimes they paralyze themselves because they're trying to figure out everything. And again, as a Catholic, my religion, thousands of years of information, right? You have tons of scholars and people who are absolutely brilliant, from Augustine to Aquinas. And I'm not going to pretend like I know all of this, right? But just because I don't know all of this, and just because it is so comprehensive and there's so many thinkers and authors and people who are knowledgeable of it, it's not going to scare me away from it. I'm not going to walk away from it because I'm intimidated by the material. That would be silly, because I can see the value that lies in this, right? And so I guess that's the point I'm trying to make over on the RPG side, is that there's a lot of value and difference that can come from this than from playing a more rules-light game. And that doesn't mean that the rules-light, and again, I'm sure there's going to be comments, well, this isn't a rules-light game. Yeah, you're right? It's a spectrum, right? But comparatively, this is A5. It's qualitatively or quantitatively light compared, right? And it does not make this bad, because what this does, and this is why you might see these other books that I brought out here. I couldn't find my copy of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's what I was looking for. But my point here to go with these are, you might catch my drift. If I throw this randomly at a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old and they start reading Genesis, son of who, son of that, my kid's probably gonna, get bored real quick and give up. Where these were great is because they're both by Christian authors, and the stories themselves, the ideas that resonate, will lead you to this place. And they're excellent on their own. Even if you never go here, these are great. They're great in so many different ways, and they stand alone and they're enjoyable. But the joy that I'm going and the reward that I get from this is very, very different than what I will get from this. And to understand, it would be just like saying that, oh, you know, just because it's complex, just because it's bad, oh, there's not enough art, oh, the formatting is bad. Those aren't great arguments for me, right? Now, I might agree that just like we have children's Bibles and we have study Bibles that help people, I do think that Acts would probably benefit greatly from some kind of introductory product that is better to get people's feet wet. But my point is that comprehensiveness and complexity that you may find here should not be something that people judge their game off of, because our modern culture is getting to the fact where we're getting farther and farther away, and we're getting more and more scared of complexity or difficulty and nuance and all these different things, and respecting patience and persistence and gradual building over time of knowledge and skill sets, right? So in a long-winded way, I wanted this video to be a response to all the people who are scared to try something just because of the size or the seeming complexity of it. And I want you to think about that. This doesn't need to be your whole life. You don't need to be like me and have, like one game that takes up, 90+% of your time now. You can still enjoy other games, and they can even be your favorite, right? But don't disrespect and certainly don't ignore and walk away from something because you're intimidated by it and you're afraid to, dig into it and get your feet wet, right? And don't be upset if when you first open this up, you don't get it because you're not used to it, right? Don't be upset when you've been playing for a couple years and you still misinterpret something, that you really thought you understood, right? Those concepts are important, and I think we will all be better for it by being willing to grind and try these more complex, higher level things, right? And again, I'm talking about these two things right now, obviously, but this applies to our music, our movies, our everything, right? Our cooking. Be more willing and be more adverse to be cognizant of, just being an attention span gerbil on the wheel, right? Like, yes, sometimes short, quick things are valuable and they're great in the moment, but that shouldn't feel, that shouldn't fill your whole life. And it certainly shouldn't let you restrict your ideas and what you're willing to try and learn. Because if you're always looking for, short form rules light games are not a panacea, right? And I think that's the argument that bothers me sometimes is I'm not against them. I think, and I want to make that clear. I see value in them. And they can be very, very fun, but they sometimes get brought about or talked about as, oh, this, like, they're a panacea, that they solve all the problems, right? And I disagree strongly. No different than, like, again, I come from a very complex old religion, right? And I think there's a lot of other people with no faith or newer faiths who might scoff or disregard, all these complexities and these rituals that we have. And I think about it the same way, as that, hey, maybe you should do a little bit more reading. Maybe you should listen to what we have to say. Maybe there's something to be said for those thousands of years of great thinkers and church fathers, and the ritual that goes behind it. Probably going off on a diatribe here again. Sorry, I don't script these things out, but I just wanted to get these thoughts down on video, because it is something that, as someone who talks about this game a lot, it's a common complaint I hear. And I don't begrudge you having that complaint. I hope this video maybe makes a couple of you think, who might have bounced off of Axe or might have these concerns. I want you to think about that, of what I'm saying, and hopefully my point is getting across, that sometimes the patience and the work is worth it and pays off, right? And it doesn't mean you need to have this be your only thing. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy these other things that have the spirit of the truth in them, even though they're not as comprehensive. They're not addressing every single thing, right? It doesn't have a rule for everything, but it has the spirit. It's in the right place, and they're very enjoyable, but it's not a cure-all, right? So I think I'm just repeating myself at this point. I'm eager to see what you guys have to say in the comments. Try not to roast me. I don't like those, but I do like actual commentary where there's interesting questions or discussions. Hope to get back to more Axe content soon, as long as this video actually uploads. If it doesn't, I'm gonna drive myself crazy probably. But yeah, if I get this uploaded, maybe I'll cut another video tonight if I have time. But hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.